It started with a knock, or more accurately, a bang loud, impatient, and entitled. Marcus had just finished changing the password to his home Wi-Fi when the banging at his front door started like a metronome of madness. He opened the door to find her standing there, Karen. Beige cardigan, aggressive bob cut, sunglasses perched like a crown of righteousness on her head. Arms crossed, eyebrows already mid-confrontation. "Did you just mess with the Wi-Fi?" she demanded. Marcus blinked. "Excuse me. My son can't connect to the network anymore. It was working just fine this morning." He stared at her. "You mean my network?" Karen scoffed. "Don't be ridiculous. We've been using Pretty Fly for a Wi-Fi for months. It's always been there. My husband works from home. You can't just take it away." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "That's because I never had a password on it. But I do now." Karen's jaw tightened. "That's not how things work in this neighborhood. You can't just change things without talking to the HOA. "Well," Marcus said calmly, "I'm not in the HOA. And this is my internet, paid with my money, in my home." "Unbelievable," she muttered, spinning on her heel and storming down the walkway. "This is going to be a problem." By the afternoon, the HOA president, Greg, a man who looked like he ironed his underwear, emailed Marcus, kindly asking him to restore the previous Wi-Fi access. Apparently, other neighbors had come to depend on the open network he'd been unknowingly providing for months. Marcus replied with a single sentence: "The free ride is over." That night, Karen upped the ante. She called 911. "There's a man in the neighborhood acting suspicious," she told the dispatcher. "He's tampering with electronic equipment and being aggressive." Within 15 minutes, red and blue lights flashed outside Marcus's home. He stepped out, calm and collected, hands in plain view. The officer's tone changed once Marcus explained. "No crime, no costs." But Karen stood nearby, arms crossed, narrating her own version of events like she was auditioning for Dateline. "You don't understand," she said to the officer. "He's doing something weird. He changed the Wi-Fi." "Who does that?" "Everyone," the cop replied flatly. "It's called cybersecurity, ma'am." The officer left, clearly annoyed. Marcus, however, wasn't done. Not even close. That night, he dug into something that had been bothering him for weeks. While setting up his new secure network, he noticed something odd. Dozens of devices had been connected to his old router. Not just phones or laptops, but cameras. External IP cams. He traced the MAC addresses and logs. Most of them matched devices within a 2-house radius. One of them, a backdoor camera labeled Garage View KRN, had been live streaming for months, from inside his own backyard. That's when Marcus knew. Karen wasn't just freeloading his Wi-Fi. She had infiltrated it. And now, he had the digital fingerprints to prove it. His calm demeanor returned, but this time with an edge. Because Karen had no idea what he just discovered. And she was about to learn the hard way. Marcus couldn't sleep. Not because he was afraid, but because he was calculating. The discovery of unauthorized surveillance devices on his network had shifted everything. What had seemed like a simple case of a nosy neighbor freeloading on his Wi-Fi was now something much darker. Deliberate. Strategic. Karen hadn't just been stealing bandwidth. She'd been watching him. He poured himself a glass of water and sat at his desk, eyes fixed on his laptop screen. His background in cybersecurity made it easy to interpret the logs. Karen's setup wasn't advanced, but it was invasive. She had piggybacked off his open network to funnel footage from what appeared to be 3 discreetly placed cameras. One behind the shared backyard fence, one hidden near a utility pole, and another most disturbingly facing his kitchen window. The timestamps showed routine monitoring. He could match some of the footage with his actual movements over the past month. She had eyes on him. Every day. And judging by the way she acted earlier, She thought he had no idea. By morning, Marcus had backed up everything: logs, device IDs, network access histories, and created an encrypted folder labeled insurance. Then, he did something bold. He walked right over to her front porch. Karen answered the door in her usual passive-aggressive morning armor: yoga pants, overpriced mug that said "blessed," and that same squint of artificial politeness. "Morning," Marcus said calmly. "Got a minute?" She hesitated, then stepped outside and shut the door behind her. "I found something on my network," he said. "Devices that don't belong to me. Streaming devices." Her face froze. "I traced one of them to your garage." She laughed awkwardly. "What are you even talking about?" "I don't know anything about cameras." Marcus just smiled. "That's funny. Because one of them is labeled Garage View KRN. And it's registered to a router MAC address that pings directly from your house." Karen's mask cracked. "That's a serious accusation," she said. "Oh, it's not an accusation," Marcus replied. "It's a fact, and I've got all the logs to prove it." Karen crossed her arms. "I don't know what you're implying, but I think you should be careful with that kind of language." "Oh, I'm being very careful," he said, stepping a little closer. "Because spying on a neighbor is a felony. And accessing someone else's network without consent? That's a federal offense." Her jaw tensed. She started to speak, but Marcus cut her off. "I'm giving you one chance to remove every device, wipe every recording, and stay out of my business from now on." Karen sneered. "Or what?" He leaned in, voice low but sharp. "Or the whole neighborhood finds out that you've been illegally monitoring them for months. And if that doesn't ruin your suburban queen image, maybe a police report will." She opened her mouth, but no words came. Instead, she stepped back and slammed the door. That afternoon, Marcus noticed something strange. His email pinged with a warning. His encrypted folder had been accessed remotely. Karen had tried to hack him back. What she didn't know was that the folder was a trap. A decoy. Inside it wasn't just the original logs, but a fake document titled Neighborhood Secrets Audio Files. And when she opened it, a hidden tracker embedded inside the file quietly sent Marcus her exact IP, location, and device info. She just confirmed her guilt in real time. Marcus grinned. "Game on," he whispered. Karen had no idea how deep she'd fallen into the hole she dug herself. The moment she opened that decoy file labeled Neighborhood Secrets Audio Files, Marcus got everything he needed. Her laptop ID, her router's IP address, and even a breadcrumb trail of metadata leading to a private cloud folder titled HOA Compliance Surveillance. It was worse than he thought. Karen hadn't just been watching him. She'd been watching everyone. The folder contained stills and short clips, grainy night shots of driveways, screenshots of people parking slightly over sidewalk lines, time-stamped photos of neighbors putting trash out too early, or walking their dogs without leashes. All cataloged, all labeled. Marcus sat back in disbelief. She was running a full-blown surveillance campaign and framing it as neighborhood compliance. And tucked at the bottom of the folder was a zip file named Fines and Infractions HOA Archive. Inside were spreadsheets with names, addresses, and an alarming column titled Fine Value, thousands of dollars in total. Some residents had been fined repeatedly for unapproved decorations or unauthorized landscaping, most of which were backed by blurry photos and Karen's personal notes like ugly fountain, claimant blocks line of sight, too many barbecue guests, HOA violation 7.3. Fabricate noise complaint if needed. Fabricate. That was the word that made Marcus pause. This wasn't a Karen with control issues. This was fraud. 2 houses down, Mrs. Ruiz had been fined $300 for a mailbox violation. She'd replaced her old, rusty mailbox with a bright cobalt blue one that matched her late husband's favorite color. Karen had claimed it was non-compliant. Now Marcus had a photo of Karen taking the picture before the mailbox had even been installed, photoshopping the mailbox into place just to justify the fine. Then there was the Johnsons' newlyweds in their late 20s. Fined $450 for hosting an unregistered rental. Karen had accused them of using their guest house for Airbnb. But according to her private notes, she knew it wasn't true. No rental listing found. Push anyway. If they fight it, claim anonymous tip. This was a goldmine of HOA abuse. And Marcus knew just what to do with it. That evening, he sent an anonymous email from a dummy account to every resident on the neighborhood mailing list. It read, "Subject, are you being watched? If you've ever received a suspicious fine, unexplained visit from the HOA, or felt like someone was spying, check the attached folder. You may find your answer there. Concerned neighbor." He attached a read-only link to a sanitized copy of Karen's surveillance archive. No personal info from her end, just evidence of what she'd been doing. Within hours, the neighborhood group chat exploded. People were outraged. Neighbors who'd never spoken to each other were suddenly comparing notes, discovering eerie similarities in their so-called infractions. The HOA board, which Karen claimed to speak for, scheduled an emergency meeting. Karen didn't know yet, but her reign of passive-aggressive terror was crumbling. The next morning, Marcus received a knock on his door. It wasn't Karen. It was Greg, the HOA president, looking unusually humble. "I had no idea any of this was happening," he said, eyes downcast. "She said she was just helping with enforcement. I didn't know she had cameras. Or that she forged things." Marcus studied him. "You're not going to sweep this under the rug, are you?" Greg shook his head. "No. In fact, we want you at the meeting tonight to show what you found. People are demanding answers." Marcus paused. "I'll be there." And this time, Karen would be the one on defense. The community center was packed. Folding chairs scraped across the floor, and neighbors who'd rarely spoken to each other were now huddled together, trading horror stories like war veterans. Karen's name echoed from every corner, low murmurs, sharp whispers, angry gasps. Some folks came with printouts. Others brought photos. One elderly couple even held a manila folder fat with old fine notices. Karen entered late. Not her usual confident strut, this was more of a reluctant shuffle. She wore sunglasses indoors, hoping to disappear, but all it did was make her more noticeable. Marcus sat near the front, laptop in hand, waiting. Greg tapped the mic. "All right, folks. Thank you all for coming. I think you know why we're here tonight. There have been some revelations." A few people scoffed. Karen crossed her arms, lips pressed into a flat line. "We received an anonymous tip," Greg continued. It exposed a systematic pattern of unauthorized surveillance, document tampering, and possible fraud, carried out by someone claiming to act on behalf of the HOA. That someone, he turned to look at her, is Karen Morris. A low wave of muttering swept the crowd. Karen shot to her feet. "This is ridiculous. I was helping this community, keeping it in line. People like him," she pointed toward Marcus, "are the reason we need rules." Every head in the room turned to Marcus. He didn't flinch. "Funny," he said calmly, standing. "Because none of the rules say you get to spy on your neighbors, forge fines, or run your own secret surveillance network." He clicked his laptop. The projector behind him lit up. Slide 1. A screenshot of Karen's cloud archive. Slide 2. Timestamped photos of Mrs. Ruiz's mailbox with metadata showing they were doctored. Slide 3. Karen's private note about fabricating an Airbnb claim. Slide 4. A zoomed-in list of fines columns with dollar amounts next to resident names. Gasps. Every single fine she issued was backed by evidence she either fabricated, exaggerated, or outright stole from private footage, Marcus said. "She used my Wi-Fi to stream footage from 3 illegal cameras, one of which directly faced my house." He clicked again. Slide 5. a live ping showing Karen's device accessing the trap file. The timestamp matched exactly with when she tried to break into Marcus's encrypted folder. She tried to hack me, and in doing so, she confirmed she knew about everything. Karen's voice cracked. This is harassment. You don't have the right. I have every right, Marcus cut in, to secure my network, to protect my privacy. And now, he turned to Greg. I have enough to file a lawsuit. Someone from the back yelled, throw her out. Another chimed in, she fined me $150 for lawn glare. What even is that? Greg held up his hand. We'll be conducting a full audit. All fines issued under Karen's authority are hereby suspended, pending investigation. If fraud is confirmed and based on what I've seen, we'll report this to the police. Karen paled. I was just following protocol, she mumbled. No, Marcus said. You were the protocol. You made yourself judge, jury, and spy. Karen turned to flee. But as she hit the door, two uniformed officers entered the building. Karen Morris? One asked. We'd like a word. About unauthorized surveillance, computer fraud, and wiretapping. Her eyes darted. Her mouth opened. But the only sound was her purse hitting the floor. Outside, neighbors gathered around Marcus. You saved us, one said. Another added, finally. She had us terrified to hang Halloween decorations. Marcus just smiled. Sometimes the best way to beat a control freak. He nodded at the officers leading Karen away. Is to let them hang themselves with their own rules. A week after Karen's dramatic public unraveling, the neighborhood felt lighter. The sidewalk chalk drawings kids used to avoid mysteriously reappeared. Flags fluttered again without warning letters. Even lawn flamingos, yes, flamingos made a bold comeback on Old Man Frederick's yard like a pink rebellion. Marcus watched it all from his porch with a quiet grin and a glass of sweet tea. Karen, on the other hand, was now the subject of an ongoing criminal investigation. Wiretapping, forgery, data theft, HOA fund misappropriation. It wasn't just about spying. She had allegedly skimmed thousands in fake fines that were funneled into her personal bank account under the guise of neighborhood improvement donations. But that wasn't even the final twist. That came when Marcus received a very unexpected visit. A sleek black SUV pulled up outside his house. A sharply dressed woman stepped out, blazer, glasses, tablet in hand. Mr. Brooks, she asked. That's me, Marcus replied. I'm Special Agent Nina Temple, Department of Justice. We've been watching your case, particularly how you handled the cyber intrusion and how you traced the surveillance. It was impressive. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You read the HOA group chat? She chuckled. Let's just say, we read everything. And we'd like to formally invite you to consult with us. We have a new community fraud task force forming. Your technical skills and the way you documented everything, it's exactly what we need. Marcus blinked. You're serious? Agent Temple smiled. Dead serious. This wasn't just a neighborhood problem. People like Karen exist all over the country, hiding behind fake authority and using bureaucracy as a weapon. We want to stop them. 2 months later, Karen's face was plastered across local news channels, escorted into court with a fresh set of federal charges. The HOA board voted to dissolve and reform with new bylaws, real transparency, and a rotating leadership structure. Guess who helped write the new charter? Marcus. And he didn't stop there. His story was featured in a national magazine. He launched a neighborhood cybersecurity seminar. Even got invited to speak at a tech convention where he gave a talk titled, When Karen Tries to Hack You, Cybersecurity for Suburban Survival. He ended with this. Power isn't always loud. Sometimes it comes dressed in HOA polo shirts, armed with fines and fake authority. But you fight it with receipts, tech, and truth. And if that doesn't work, change your Wi-Fi password. That'll really freak him out. The crowd roared. Back home, the neighbors started calling Marcus the firewall. And Karen? Let's just say, her next HOA meeting was held behind bars.